G'day, Ralph here. Welcome to Geoterrics Outdoors Australia and welcome back to the van life. I bought the van just a little over a year ago now and had great plans for what I was going to do with the van and destinations and all sorts of stuff and mods and various other things, but it's been quite a tough year. I've had surgery and recovery from that. I've had chemo and recovery from that, and just starting to come out the other side and have started to think about working from the van in locations such as the old farm here. But hey, with a good setup and everything done the right way, you can work from pretty much anywhere. So having thought this through and done some research, I've discovered 4 tips that you need to organise your tiny home, whatever you want to call it, so you can be productive and work from the road. First tip, get organised. Our first trip, Sonia said, an organised camper is a good camper, or something to that effect. That's actually a really good tip. Get into your van and whatever you've got, even if it's a caravan, and have a place for everything and make sure everything is put back in its place. Currently I'm trying different setups, and I'll show you some bits of footage on the inside of how I'm trying to set myself up, but I've definitely got a system where this is where the cooking, crockery and all the various other equipment goes. This is where the linen, towels, all that sort of stuff goes. This is where the clothes go. Still experimenting, but it's a really important tip to make sure that you've got space for everything and everything is in its space. And when you start to bring the various bits and pieces you need to do with work, computers, or laptop, monitors, power boards, cables, all the various other bits and pieces, that everything's in its place and you've got no issues. Second tip is you need to have power. If you're in a caravan park and you can plug in to the available 240 power, that's great. The other option is to have a few batteries and have an inverter, and depending on how much power your system is going to take, your laptop, your monitors and various other things, you may have a few hours or even need to run the motor just to recharge, or have an adequate solar panel array on top of your van. So the other option then is to buy a generator. I bought myself a 2.2 kilowatt sine wave inverter, which is going to be okay for my computers, the monitors and all the other various bits and pieces I need to charge or connect. They're the options you've got available. Is caravan park power, 240, plug straight in, a decent battery bank with the inverter, providing it's going to run, and this video isn't about this, we'll do that in another video, or a generator. And I've actually got a video. Once we've got that, I'll put the link up here and also down in the description. The review and first impressions of the XTM from BCF. Tip number 3 is to have a setup. Now what I've done with my computer and all my setup here is I've taken my home setup and tried to make it work in a very small space in here. And although it does work, it takes a lot of organisation. There's risk of breakages on the way if you don't have that first tip, that organisation and that system and a place for everything. And also it takes up space on the dining table that I then can't use as a dining table. Luckily I've actually got a folding table and I can eat outside, and the weather's been fairly decent. Plus I've got the canopy that I can put out and be out of some of the weather. So the setup is really important if you're using a battery bank. So you actually need to do your sums if you're using batteries of how many amp hours you've got, what your converter is going to be able to have plugged into it, how much the computer, monitors and anything else that you want to charge is going to draw, and then you can actually do a calculation. We'll do that in another video just to give you an idea of how to do that. Once we've got that, I'll put the link up here and also down in the description. And finally, with a generator, you need to understand how many kilowatts you've got or how many watts you've got and what you can actually plug into that. Tip number 4 is getting the internet. Now if you're in a caravan park, quite possibly you're going to have the ability to use the caravan park's Wi-Fi. I'm not quite sure what your requirements are for security, but generally they can be quite fast services, and you can get a decent amount. Some caravan parks you've got to pay, and you've got to repay for another voucher. That's what happens there. If you've got mobile reception, you can hotspot your phone, use it as a hotspot, and then your computer can, or laptop can then connect to that. What we've got here on the farm is Starlink. So when the generator's on, we can turn it on, and it finds itself with the satellite dish. It finds where the satellites are, and you can get internet here in a completely off-grid environment. A couple of problems with Starlink, and I'll put that in another video to review the Starlink system, is that it's patchy. Where we need to get the satellites from is generally the southern sky, and where the hut's situated, we've got some pretty big trees in the way, which is actually interfering with our ability to pick up more satellites. So we've got a limited internet access, and some of my work calls have dropped out and dropped out and dropped out on Teams or any of the other productivity programs that you may be using. Uploads to YouTube and various other things similarly patchy, but the beautiful thing with those sorts of uploads, they'll actually remember where you cut off and then continue once they've got connectivity again. So there you have 4 tips for working and being productive on the road in some beautiful settings like we've got at the old farm here, down by the beach, up in the snow, wherever you want to be. If you've got those 4 things, and again I'll just repeat: first thing, being organised and having a system, a place for everything and everything in its place. Second is power. Thirdly is having a computer set up that you can put away and drag out with the minimum amount of fuss and have everything where you need it to be. And fourthly is have the internet. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please give us a thumbs up, share it with your friends, please leave us a comment. Love to hear your comments, especially people who've got experience on the road. And finally, thanks for watching.